YouTubers, and welcome to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review, I'm looking at, well, it's not actually an action figure. In fact, this is described as a model kit, and it's not from Character Options. This is the K-9 Light and Sound figurine from Running Press. Now, Running Press have done a few different versions of these sets. They've done one with the TARDIS, with the Dalek, Cyberman, Sonic Screwdriver, and each set comes with a model, in this case K-9, and a fully illustrated pocket book. So, why am I reviewing this? Well, when this set was announced and was finally released, people who bought the set began to say, actually, this new version of K-9 is in the classic series K-9 colours, and to top it off, it seems to be in scale with the classic series figures, the 5-inch figures from Character Options. So I am here today to take a look at this version of K-9 and see, does this version actually fit with the 5-inch range? Well, let's take a look. K-9 comes packaged in a cuboid box. The front features an image of K-9 himself, while the sides of the box feature the DW Doctor Who logo and Running Press's logo. The top of the box is very much the same, however it also includes a nice foil finish stating that this is a deluxe mega kit. The back of the box gives us a little look at the model and the book included in this set, as well as a little description about what can be found within. Okay. So once you've got K-9 out of the box, there is some assembly required. Now, first of all, you can see his tail isn't attached. Also, if we turn him over, there is one of these little plastic tabs to stop the lights and sounds from working. We'll get rid of that for a start. And then let's take a look at the tail. Now, I'm assuming that it goes that way because the tail points up, and not that way where it points down. There are no instructions, so it's just going to be a bit of trial and error. So I'm assuming that's the case. And then this just clips into the hole on the back. He says, trying to get it to go in. Go in! Go in. Aha, there we go. Perfect. So it's a bit waggly. Not intentional, but actually that's not a bad thing. We have our new K-9. So let's take a little look at any articulation. Well, we know that his tail wobbles. That's not really articulation. He is on 4 wheels, as you can see at the bottom there. Does his head move? Nope, the head is solid. So in terms of articulation, well, he can move forwards and backwards. I mean, did K-9 really ever turn his head in the series? Not that I can recall. So articulation-wise, well, it's K-9. We knew what we were going to be getting. But let's take a little look at the detail on this figure. So if we start with the head, there are a few nice little details here and there. First off, something that we don't get with the Character Options figure are the little screws here and there. They also feature on this side of K-9's head as well. Looking at the front, we have the standard red eye section. On this figure, it's not a translucent plastic like it is with the Character Options figure. It's just painted on. The ears are slightly more rectangular on this version of K-9. They're not quite as curved as the version that we get with the Character Options toy, but it does also feature the little bumps where the ears plug into, like the actual prop. Moving down to the front where we have K-9's nose, you can just see that there's a small circle and another circle within that that's been sculpted within the sort of snout area, which is meant to replicate where the nose gun would come out of the prop. If we just lift it up slightly, you can see there's a small slit there, which is where the ticker tape would come out of with the proper K-9 prop. K-9's neck has been sculpted with all of the ridges like the actual prop, and we come down to the collar. Now this is where we slightly start to detract from this, because the collar isn't sculpted. It's actually just a paper sticker that is loose around K-9's neck. That's a shame, because with the Character Options toy, obviously it was sculpted and it was painted on. Is it a real detractor? I'm going to be honest, no it isn't. Now when I heard about this after I bought the toy, I thought, oh no, that's going to be really bad. Actually, you really don't notice. Mine's slightly misshapen. I think a few people have said that theirs has been misshapen like that. With a little wiggle, you can probably shape it up to be more circular. I'll be honest, I think it looks fine. It might be paper, but it really isn't noticeable. You can see here there's a little slit. That's where the sound for K-9's voice comes out of. We also have the little rod going across the front. That's meant to be the little sort of bracket that could be used to like drag K-9 along with. It's actually just a solid piece of plastic that's sticking out of the front. And if we look towards the bottom, we have the black sponge bumpers. They're not curved, sadly, they're just flat. So whereas the Character Options one has the sort of curved look, because I think they are just sort of like insulation pipes, just that sort of foam stuff, like you get in B&Q and places like that. Here it is just rectangular and flat with edges, so not quite there, but it's nice enough. The side features K-9 painted in a nice silver, which really does stand out against the grey. People have already asked, does this panel come off? No, it doesn't come off, it's all one sculpt. The tail, which we've already seen, is just black plastic. You can see it's sculpted with different ridges. Now moving down to K-9's backside, you'll notice that there is another ridge at the back. Now, this was not featured on the classic K-9 props. This is something that I think was only introduced with K-9 Mark III. It's definitely there in School Reunion. So it's not quite 100% classic in that respect, because you've got this here. There's also another one at the top here, which I'll look at in a sec. If we move to the opposite side, K-9's square panel has been painted black. Now, I'm not really sure what I think about this, because I don't know if it was ever black in the TV series. Part of me wants to say, no, it wasn't. I think it was always just sort of a flat grey. I haven't really sort of looked on the internet to see any pictures, but I can't recall it ever being black. Now, at times, it did look red. I believe in The Invisible Enemy that the panel was red. I think that was because they actually had some sort of readout on the side of it. I could be making that up. Does it detract from the figure? Nah, not really. I quite like it. But what is interesting to note is that within the square is a smaller rectangle, which has been sculpted in. Now, I'm sure, I could be going mad, that in certain episodes, possibly The Invisible Enemy actually, this is used as a screen. There's a screen there or something. I could be going completely mad and making that up. But something about this does make me think of The Invisible Enemy. But if anyone who is really good with K-9 prop history can fill me in on the details of this square, then please post below, because I'd be fascinated to find out. Moving on to the back, we have another of these little rods across the top, which I'd already mentioned. Like I said, you don't get that on the classic prop. That's just a new series thing. So it's not 100% there, but close enough. The other detractor from this has to be the sticker on the top. Now, on the Character Options toy, that's all sculpted and painted. Much like with the dog collar, I thought it was going to look worse than it does. But actually, when you look at it, you don't really sort of think, oh god, that's quite clearly a sticker. It just looks like he's got buttons on the back of his back. Obviously, it would have been nice if it was sculpted, but you've got to remember, this isn't a proper action figure. And of course, the moment you've all been waiting for, the lights and sounds. So, K-9 does feature lights, and he does feature a little phrase. So, let's have a look. The sounds are activated by the button on his back, and very nice. Let's just go through that again. The light almost seems to flicker as he speaks, almost in time with his speaking, and it does stay on for just about a second after he finishes talking. Of course, the main thing about this K9 that I have yet to mention is the fact that it is the classic grey colour, not the shiny silver that we see in the new series in the Sarah Jane Adventures. So let's take a look at how similar he is compared to the character options version. So here we are, they're side by side. What I have here is the K9 that came packaged with the season 18 4th Doctor from Warrior's Gate. Now I've put this one there because this was meant to be the classic K9. So as you can see, this K9 is the darker grey colour. Automatically, it's more accurate in that respect. In terms of sizes, there really isn't an awful lot in it. This one could be a tad longer, maybe a tad taller, but it is so small you can barely see much of a difference. Looking at the two heads side by side, the new K9 that we have here is slightly larger than this one. Again, it's only very, very small. There's not much in it. Also, the tartan pattern on his dog collar is different to the one featured on this K9, but I would honestly say that I think this looks more like the K9 collar featured in the classic series. In fact, looking at the book that comes with the toy, it does look a bit more like that. Looking at the two K9s front on, you can see that there are quite clear differences within the shape of K9's head. This one is a lot larger. It seems sort of shorter at the snout compared to this one, but it's a bit wider, a bit thicker. What do I think? Does one seem better than the other? Well, I'll be honest, it's hard to say because I think I prefer this one. Now, maybe it's because there's something about this head that reminds me of the Dapol K9, and I'm just thinking in terms of nostalgia. For all I know, this thinner head could be more accurate. I'll be honest, I think K9's head always did look quite thick like this, and something that I do like about this that we don't have with the character options one is the fact that we have the quite clear lines here, whereas this is just one whole red piece of plastic with ridges sculpted in. So it's a bit of a difficult one to say, really, but I'll be honest, I think I would go for the new version that I'm looking at here. Again, there's not much difference, except that this is black, it has a rectangle within the square. Otherwise, there really isn't a lot of difference. And if we just look at the stickers versus the sculpt, obviously the sculpt, it does look better because it's sculpted and it's been painted. However, I don't think that the sticker on this version detracts from the overall toy. As a classic K9, I've got to say that this wins out. It's just a more accurate colour. I think there are some little details like the screws and things that really add to the figure. It's just nice to have something that very much closely resembles the classic K9. So here is Running Press's K9 model alongside the Warrior's Gate Season 18 4th Doctor figure. It just looks so much better. The darker colour just looks more like K9 as he did with Tom Baker. If we put the other K9 in, you can see he's slightly slimmer and the shiny silver just doesn't look the same as it did in the classic series. So overall, does this K9 fit within the 5-inch line? Yes, it does. It might be a tad larger than the other K9, but it's such a small difference that you really couldn't tell that it was a bit bigger. In fact, I think that the slight increase makes it look better, especially within the head. The lights and sounds are also an added bonus, but it's nice that we finally have a classic series K9 to put with our 4th Doctor figures. But wait, there's more, because this set also features an additional book. And it's really nice. It's 48 pages, it's got a ton of text, and there are lots of lovely colour photos from both the classic series and the new series. So if we just take a quick little look and flick through, So you can see we've got some stuff here from the Invisible Enemy. We've got some nice close-ups of the K-9 prop. Aha! And if you look here, this K-9 prop does have a black square with a rectangle inside. So that is where they got their references from. Very interesting. Again, we have some more little images of the K-9 prop. We've got Luke Smith. We've got some more images which looks like it's from the Sarah Jane Adventures. We've got some more over here from the Reboss operation. It's a really nice book. Lots of text. Very informative for such a small book. Let's see what else we've got. Adventures of K-9 Mark 1. So it's taking us all the way through his time as K-9. We've got stuff to do with the Invasion of Time here. Lots of nice images from that. K-9 Mark 2, Stones of Blood, Reboss Operation, Androids of Tara. So it's taking us all through the Key to Time. We've got... it even mentions stuff about David Bradley taking over as K-9's voice for Season 17, before returning to John Leeson in Season 18. Thank goodness. You can get this set from about £5 up to £8, depending on where you shop around. Was it worth the money? Definitely! This is great because you get the most accurate version of classic K-9 so far. Yes, there's a few discrepancies with the little rods on the top and the back, but other than that, the colour and the slight size increase with the head and things, it just feels that much more like K-9. And of course, we get the extra book, which is filled with information, and I will be having a good look at that later on. So overall, I would definitely highly recommend this version of K-9. It's only £5.50, it has lights, it has sounds. I know it only says one phrase, but you know, that's better than nothing. It's a really nice little figure, and it fits perfectly with the 5-inch 4th Doctor figures from Character Options. Thanks for watching this review, guys. I shall see you again soon.